Hey everyone, welcome back into DomTime. Thanks for joining us tonight. Love to get you involved. Give us a call and tell us where you are right now with the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare. The stakes have never been higher. The people that are supportive of this, the Obama side, 7-figure ad buy that'll start to play out this week, touting some of the things that we've already seen come into play that they are saying are positive. And their argument is there's just a lot of misinformation out there, talk radio where I am and others, just pulling apart the things that we don't like about this. Joining us to talk about it is Elliot Griffin. Elliot is a representative of the Philadelphia Young Democrats, and Matt Rooney of Save New Jersey. All right, Elliot, you're up. What is the misinformation? What are we saying that's not contained in this 2,200 pages? What do you think is the biggest gripe?
A lot of the misinformation is surrounding small businesses. Small businesses before the Affordable Care Act were paying almost like 18, 20 times as much larger companies were for insurance. And the Affordable Care Act is providing tax credits for those businesses, so they will be able to keep employees and they will be able to provide health insurance.
So somebody's telling, but small business people call me all the time. Are they mistaken? And they say their premium's gone up, they're scared to death, and they're going to try to cut back the hours that people work.
I hear that concern as well, and that's certainly something that has to come from the administration, and it has to come from members of Congress and their districts to better address those issues.
Matt, small business and this benefits, what do you hear?
It's absolutely opposite, Dom, and there's a reason why the Obama administration's allies need to spend millions of dollars to try to change people's perception of reality, because it's not what's happening. As they've gone ahead and leveled all these new regulations and costs on small business people, they're shedding their employees. And it's not just small business. They recently looked at Fortune 100 companies, the top 100 companies, and they found out that a lot of those companies could save $400 million by paying the Obamacare penalty instead of keeping those employees at work. So what happens? People get laid off. Those young workers we're talking about in that 26-year age bracket get laid off. And then the president says, oh, isn't this wonderful? You get to stay on your parents' health care a little bit longer.
All right,
That's not a solution.
Let's take a call for you guys. Let's go to Robert in New Jersey. Robert, how do you see this?
Well, once more, my name is Robert, and I kind of believe in what the young lady is speaking of. I believe that with a lot of, lack of understanding about exactly what, the Obamacare is aiming at, it scares a lot of people. And, when you have your small businesses who are trying to, stay afloat, it really, frightens them because they don't have all the information that's needed. So I believe that when you have so many people just depicting all the wrong things about it, it spreads like a disease amongst everybody that's just trying to make an honest living.
Matt, go ahead.
I don't know Robert. This is the first time I'm meeting him over the airwaves here, but I don't know if he runs a small business. But if you talk to somebody who runs a deli, who owns a small trucking company, they'll tell you that it just comes down to dollars and cents. There isn't anything that they don't understand. The president and all those bureaucrats in those lovely marble buildings down in D.C. have never had to manage a payroll. They have. And when you make it more costly for them to be able to afford to hire someone, and they have to make a decision whether or not they're going to give them health care or be able to have their store open when they need to for their customers, the health care is going to go.
Well, we have this argument constantly that our larger employees are going to lay people off or not hire as many people, or they could pay the penalty rather than provide insurance. But independent research has consistently shown that employers will continue to provide health insurance because it helps them recruit the top people. It helps them recruit the elite and stay competitive.
But I'll look at the administration's own statistics. Let's look at the Department of Labor. Even though the actual unemployment rate has come down because less people are filing and looking, we have the most underemployed and people who have just stopped looking for work since the Great Depression. And that number's been consistent and been getting worse throughout this president's administration.
Okay, let me get into, Elliot, with you, another fear. We've all seen, and we've talked about it here on this show, on my radio show, this little girl in Delco who got a lung transplant. And the fear out there, some call it death panels, but those that are more rational, talk about rationing, which I'm afraid of in this, and that Secretary Sebelius said, well, some are going to live and some are going to die when it came to this. So there's a fear that medical control will go away from doctors and go to bureaucrats in Washington making decisions in order to save money.
And I would go even further that going along with the myths, that there's also a fear that people will lose our autonomy, and but we will have less control over who we select as healthcare providers, and that's just simply not true. It just hasn't happened. And I know that in Pennsylvania, we're also working to increase the number of doctors. When Massachusetts passed a similar law that was, of course, passed by Mitt Romney, that they face the problem of not having enough doctors. So that's something that's going to come back to the states to ensure that we are continue to grow our medical force.
What about the fear, though, that we saw with this little girl, that somebody under this, Secretary Sebelius, has complete and unbridled power in those 2,200 pages to execute the Affordable Care Act?
And you mean to execute it in the sense that she gets the final say?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I don't necessarily agree with that, because I don't think that we live in a democracy that where one person gets that final say on something so serious.
She had the decision of life and death here with the lung transplant, and she opted not to do anything.
I agree, and I was totally in support of the little girl from Delaware County getting the lung transplant. And I think that if that is actually the case, then that's certainly a part of the law that I would be willing to come to the table and re-examine.
Right. Fair enough. All right, more with our two guests here, and we'd love to take your calls, as Robert called in right now. Is it misinformation? Do you have concerns? Or do you think it's just a bunch of people trying to scare you? That's straight ahead on DomTime.